Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Solving Career Burnout webinar brought to you by your Vanderbilt Alumni Association. I'm Drew Webb, Assistant Director of Student Alumni Engagement, and I'm so glad that you could join us today from wherever you are. This webinar is just one resource of many that Vanderbilt provides to our alumni, so please be sure to familiarize yourself with some of the other services that we offer at vuconnect.com/career. Today's webinar will last around 45 minutes. With time at the end for questions. So please feel free to type in questions as you have them into the question box on the side panel of your screen throughout the presentation, and we will make sure that these are addressed in some way before time is up today. We are recording today's webinar, and I will post it on the Expert Advice webpage in VU Connect, and I'll also share the recording with you via email later this week. Many of you know our presenter today from previous Alumni Career Services offerings here at Vanderbilt, and I'm excited that she's back with us today for this presentation. Hallie Crawford is a certified career coach based in Atlanta, Georgia, and we're so glad she's able to join us despite the storm and power outages in Atlanta today and yesterday. Her company, HallieCrawford.com, and team of coaches have helped thousands of people nationwide uncover their dream career and make it a reality. Hallie is regularly featured as a career expert in the media, including Forbes.com, The Wall Street Journal, CNN, AJC, and Fox Business News. Hallie, thanks so much for joining us today to talk about this important topic.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thank you everyone for being here. Again, just to reiterate, because I'm in Atlanta with the storms and everything, we really appreciate your time and hope everyone is safe and okay and gets back on their feet quickly. So we are going to talk about solving career burnout today, which I think everyone can relate to, in some way, shape, or form for various different reasons. So here's the deal is, if you feel burned out for whatever reason in your career, we're going to talk today about how to fix that and get back on track. And I want you all to know, kind of first of all here as we dive in, that it happens to the best of us, including me. It happens to everyone. Even me, I love what I do. I have been coaching and training for 17 years now. I started my business in my late 20s. I just turned 44. And I love what I do, and I feel like I'm meant to do it. But even despite that, there are times when I get burned out on what I do, okay? I feel like I'm meant to do it, but even I can feel sometimes overworked, or like I've fallen into too much of a routine, or I'm not challenged enough and I need to mix it up. I can get bored sometimes or overwhelmed, and as a result, start to feel burned out. And for me, it happens every few years, so you might actually notice, and I want you guys to think about this, you might actually notice that it could be cyclical for you. So the first thing I want you to get here right out of the box is that I totally understand how this is. And even if you are in the right career or in the right role or industry, even in that case, people can get burned out because it's that way for me. And we need to find ways to continue to feel challenged, enthusiastic, and engaged in our work. So one of the first things I want you guys to do here on the call, right away right now, is to think about how you feel. What's going on for you? What brought you here today? Do you feel burned out? Or is it more like you're bored? Or more, is it that you're overworked? What's exactly going on for you? Is it that you're not challenged enough? Okay? And keep in mind that even if you're great at something, at your job, and you love it, you too can get tired of it. It can become too rote or routine over time. And sometimes when you're great at something and you get rewarded with more work, it can be tough because it's okay, I'm fantastic at this, and I'm offering my ideas, and every time you raise your hand to give an idea, you get more work, okay? So we need to pay attention to what is going on with us first to be able to understand what of the tips that I'm going to give you today are the best ones for you. So step number one here is to kind of think about, okay, what's going on for me? Is it the overwork? Is it just that I don't feel challenged? Is it that, it's something else, like not enough life balance, whatever it is? So identify that first, okay? And we're going to talk today about how to handle all of these issues. So what I did, just by the way, to share my own personal story real quick, and then we'll get into the agenda, is I brainstormed ways to make my work challenging again for me, because my issue was that I needed more challenge. If you take a look at this slide here, sometimes the coaching becomes kind of too rote or routine for me, okay? And I want you to pay attention to these, because these actually could give you some ideas about what you could do for yourself. So what I have found over time is I need to create challenges for myself. I need to attend conferences regularly, even if they're just short seminars, locally, or something where, I fly out for a few days. Sometimes I need to perform or change up my job a little bit and change it up and do things in a different way, or deliver coaching in a different way. So for example, I do some individual coaching now, but now I do webinars like this as well, and group coaching also. So kind of mixing things up a little bit helps me feel more challenged. And also, if I mix things up and present or give ideas or coaching to different audiences, so to corporations and now EMBA and MBA students, we do that as well, or come up with new topics to deliver to new audiences, that can help too. So what I find in this, the last note here on the slide, is I find ways to kind of grow or change my role on a regular enough basis that I feel challenged, okay? So that's how I've kind of fixed it, if you will, for myself. And I find it happens like every couple of years for me, that I need to kind of mix things up a little bit. So again, I want you guys to think about, like, is it cyclical at all for you? Can you identify like patterns when you start to feel this way, okay? So let's take a look at our agenda. So what we're going to talk about today is, number one, the situations that people fall into where they get this sense of feeling burned out and the impact that it has on them. We're then going to talk about 10 tips to manage this career burnout thing. And then finally, we're going to talk about how to make this real. I want you all to be thinking about, during the course of our program today, but also at the end, specific action steps that you can take, even if they're small. They don't have to be huge ones, but get the ball rolling to start fixing this. So we want to come up with some specific action steps, because I don't know about you guys, but I do this all the time where, I'll attend a conference or listen to a webinar or whatever it is, right? And I'm all jazzed and ready to go. And then the phone rings, or my son gets sick, and, just life gets in the way. So I really want you all to come up with, even if they're small, kind of baby steps in the next few weeks, action steps that you will take to make it happen. So we'll talk about those closer to the end. And I'm offering a free 20-minute career strategy session to anyone who feels like they need more help with this topic or any other topic as well. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And we have, just for Vanderbilt alumni, our next Identify Your Ideal Career program coming up September 20th. I'll tell you about that briefly as well, okay? One thing I wanted to mention, though, everybody, in terms of these 10 tips, as I start to get into them in just a moment here, you don't have to implement all 10 of them. What I want you to think about, guys, is like how, which ones, pick and choose which ones are going to make the most sense for you based on your situation and your needs, okay? So just know that it's not like it has to be all 10 of them and, oh my goodness, that's overwhelming. Pick and choose which ones make sense or make the most sense for you. And I would recommend between like 3 and 4 of them to implement over the next few months, okay? So let's talk about career burnout kind of in general for a second here and why it happens. So there's lots of different reasons why this can happen to people, okay? Number one here at the top of this slide, it could be that, gosh, we've been in a specific job or certain role or at a specific company or industry or in a certain industry for a long period of time, and we just kind of feel like, gosh, I've been doing the same thing over and over. It could be number 2 here, that we've been called upon to do something that we excel in, and maybe we've been doing it for a long time, but we just no longer enjoy it anymore. I have plenty of clients that, will talk to me and be like, Hallie, I'm great at Excel spreadsheets or whatever it is, but I'm tired of people asking me to do it. I just don't get fulfillment anymore from it. So that's another reason that can happen as well. Number 3 here on the slide is that we could encounter, like we always do, life or career changes, and what's rewarding for you may have changed. So like, for example, when I had my son, my life priorities changed, and in turn, my priorities for my career and what I wanted out of my business changed. So that can happen as well, and that's very, very normal, okay? And the final possible reason, and there are more of these are just kind of some general ones and some of the main ones, is our workload can increase, obviously, as our competence increases, and we are rewarded, right, with, hey, more work. Fantastic. So this happens over time, and sometimes we might not even notice it, but we can get kind of burned out and sometimes resentful when, this happens, okay? One of the things I wanted to actually share with you was a quick example of this life and career change. One of my clients, and hopefully this will be kind of inspiring for you guys, is in terms of a life and career change for him. I had a client that worked at Bloomberg in New York City, and about 8 months before he contacted me to work with me through coaching, he hurt his back and had to have back surgery. And it was a really big deal for him in his life. He was in the hospital for a long time, and the recovery took a really long time. And he spent weeks in the hospital and kind of evaluating what he wanted his life and career to be about. It was a very kind of intense experience for him. And as a result, he decided, I don't want to do what I'm doing anymore. He wanted to get into medical device sales instead as a result of that experience. And so for him, he felt totally burned out being a financial analyst at Bloomberg and wanted to make a change. So that is just one example of many types of life or career changes that can cause us, to want something completely different, okay? And here's the deal here. Here are the results and the impact that this burnout can have on us, right? It results in negative feelings and therefore negative results. So I want you to think also now, everybody, about what the impact is on you. So I asked you a few minutes ago to think about, okay, how am I feeling? What are the issues here? I now want you to think about, and actually get out a pen or write on your computer whatever is best for you. I now want you to think about, what's the result? What's happening to you now as a result of this burnout? Are you bored? Are you kind of just lethargic at work and not very interested in what you're doing? And as a result, becoming less effective or efficient and successful, okay? Is it that, I'm getting more and more work and I'm overwhelmed and maybe I'm not even enjoying the work very much too, but I can't be efficient and effective anymore as a result of that, okay? And sometimes what can happen to us here, and why this says on the slide, we're talking about perception. Sometimes, when we do a job really well and we're very good at it, others can perceive that or think that our job is too easy, if you're doing it really well and not sweating, right? So to speak. So sometimes this can happen too. Like it may seem like, gosh, this is so easy, but you're actually, getting overwhelmed. So you need to pay attention to all of these things and specifically notice what's happening to you and what the results are of this career burnout, okay? All right, so let's start taking a look at the 10 tips. So here they are, and just keep in mind, everybody, remember that you will get a copy of the presentation, so you don't have to feel like you're frantically writing everything down. You will get the recording, but I will also email the presentation itself to Drew so that he can share that with you all also, okay? So here are our 10 tips, and you do want to go through the first 2 steps, everyone, in order, just like we're talking about. So the first 2 are kind of mandatory, okay? And then the rest, like I was saying earlier, you can pick and choose what makes the most sense for you, again, based on your situation and, what your goals are as a result, okay? So these are the 10 tips. We're going to talk about assessing the situation, determine the things that actually need to be different in order to make you feel more engaged in your work, staying in the know and staying on top of industry trends, putting yourself out there more, volunteering. In some cases, this can kind of get people back in the flow with things, participating actively within your team, within your company, talking with your boss if that's the appropriate thing to do and actually if it would work for you, taking a class, talking about change, and then we'll come up with the action plan as well, okay? So let's talk about the first one. So the first thing you need to do, which I already kind of pointed you towards in the last few minutes here, is to assess what's going on. So first of all, I want you to take a step back, though, not just in determining, okay, what's going on for you, why are you burned out, but take a step back and say, okay, at this point in my life, what do I want in my job? What am I going to be passionate about or fulfilled by, or, you know, how can I feel accomplished in my work, whatever makes the most sense for you. So think about even, why did you start in your field or in your industry? Go back to the beginning. Why did you get into it in the first place? And think too about what has changed since you started that has caused this burnout to happen, okay? It's even helpful in this assessment phase or step to think about, you know, everything that you want in your life, not just in your work. And this is where, in this step with our clients, we look at and help them identify what their values are, not just their career values, but their personal values. And is the burnout a result of their values not being honored or even being stepped on, okay? And then also think about, you know, are you being overworked in any area, or even more so, are you doing too much of one task that at first you enjoyed and now it's taking over your job, like your job has changed over time and you're like, you don't like it so much anymore because I lost some of these other things that I enjoy. So the step number one here is to assess what's going on and really take a step back and be rational and practical about this. Write down what has kind of, you know, what has changed in your job and what you actually want to have instead, because that will help you enormously then implement the right action steps in order to fix whatever is going on, okay? So as part of step number one here, I wanted to show you all this ideal career model. And if you've been on my webinars before, you know that we use this model with all of our clients. This ideal career model, everybody, shows you the 8 things that you need to consider in order to know if you're in the right career path, or if you're wanting to make a career change, how to understand what the right career path would be, okay? We use this with our clients to help them define their direction, determine if they're in the right fit, and also for work performance. What are the things that are suffering and what needs to change if they're not happy? So this model can help you all kind of guide you towards what may need to change. So for example, if you look on the slide here, are you not using all of your strengths? Or like I said a moment ago, is one strength being overused and you've lost some of the other ones? Is the work environment, because of a, you know, a merger or something else, not a fit anymore? If you look at environment here with also with your personality type, has that happened? Is your job no longer challenging and maybe not using your education as much as you would want to, or leveraging your experience as much as you would want to, okay? So you need to ask yourself all of these questions, or a question kind of for each box, and I'll go through these really quickly with you here, everybody. Is you want, for fulfillment, you want to ask yourself, okay, you know, do I still have a sense of meaning and a sense of accomplishment from my job? Do I still have a sense of reward and fulfillment? And if you cannot check that box, then you need to get back to, okay, what are my values and what is missing? If you look at enjoyment here, this is kind of the extra stuff that you like to do and get to do sometimes, but is not the main part of your role. It's like the icing on the cake. So traveling is part of your job, maybe doing a little bit of writing or mentoring others. Do you have enough of these kind of side extra things that you enjoy doing that help you feel that sense of fulfillment, okay? So we also want to get a sense of, gosh, these other extra things I like doing versus I only like the main thing I have to do in my job and everything else drives me nuts. That can bring you down and make you burned out. If you take a look at your strengths, you want to make sure that you're using your strengths, the ones that you want to be using right now, and also on using them on a very regular basis, at least like 50% of your day. So again, you need to make a list of what your strengths are and say, okay, am I using all of them, A, and B, what are the ones that might be kind of falling off the plate here and I need to bring them up to the forefront a little bit more. You look at your education and experience, like I said a moment ago, are you leveraging those in the way that you want to? okay? One of the places you can look to figure out how to make your work more fulfilling to you. So for example, did you used to work a lot in a team, but your role has become more solitary? And looking at past experience that you have enjoyed, by the way, can give you clues to what you might need to change now, okay? So think about past experience as well in order to get clues to what you want to have now instead, okay? And then in terms of personality and work environment, are you able to be yourself in your job? Being authentic is critical to happiness and not feeling stagnant at work. Are you in the right work environment, or is that part of what's frustrating you? Is there no way, for example, to increase your skills? There's no career progression maybe, or not enough. And maybe you're as competent as you can be in your role and you've reached the top and now you're bored. So you need to think about work environment and culture as well. And compensation is another thing to take a look at too. Has this stagnated for you? And you can't move up enough or as fast as you would want to. So this career model, everybody, can really help you assess what is going on, what is wrong, and what you want to have instead. So I encourage you to use this. After you get the presentation, go ahead and print it out and use it as a checklist, okay? All right, so step number 2 is to make a list of the top 5 things. And by the way, I say 5 just to keep it, so it's not overwhelming, keep it reasonable for you. So what we want to do is make a list of the top 5 things that need to be different in your job to help with this burnout based on the model, okay? So for example, you need to reduce the use of one skill, like do one task a little bit less if that's possible. Do you need to adjust the work environment and maybe stay in the same role or industry that you're in, but go to a different company that has a better environment for you, that's smaller or larger or more creative, for example? Do you need to track your hours? So this is actually a good action step that you can take. One of the things you can do to figure out where you're spending your time and maybe why you're getting burned out in one area versus another is track your hours. Where are you spending the most time? And do it just for 2 or 3 days to get a sense of what's going on, okay? Because this can help you with that assessment piece. And then you want to say, okay, what are the 5 things that need to be different or better as a result? And by the way, just really quickly too, I'll go back to the model here for just 1 second. One of the things, if any of you feel like, gosh, I really don't know what my strengths are in order to identify if I'm using them on a regular basis, the assessment that we tend to like for our clients, it's quick and easy and it's very affordable but gives you a lot of great information, is the StrengthsFinder assessment. We like that a lot. The website is StrengthsFinder.com. You can take it, you get your results right away. It can help you get a sense of what strengths may be being underused for you, okay? And I'll give you some more examples about all this in a moment, but if you feel like you're having trouble with identifying what your strengths are or your values are or anything else, happy to do the strategy session with you. Just send me an email like I mentioned earlier, because the model itself, it can take some time to really think through, and I'm happy to offer you this free time to help you guys out if you need to, okay? So number 2, still with the assessment here, is you want to think then about, after you've made that first assessment about what needs to change, you need to think about how great a change do I need in my career? Can you get your top 5 things at your current role, or do you need to switch roles or companies or even your career direction, okay? We always recommend, of course, try to make these changes if possible at your current position, just because it's easier. And sometimes we forget to look out our own back door. And there are times when we've had clients be able to make those changes by either talking to their boss or staying at the same organization but just moving over into a different department. So in some cases, you can stay put and make these changes, where you are. And if you can't, that's okay, but you want to at least consider that first, okay? And whether you need to stay or go. If you decide you need to make a change, you want to make a plan for that, obviously, in order to figure out, okay, what are the things I want to have instead, and how do I ensure that that happens in my next position, okay? Number 3 is to stay in the know. So one of the other action steps after you've taken these first 2 as the foundation is to stay in the know. So things you can do to try to improve your situation as well is figure out, are there new challenges that you can take on that maybe you've overlooked in your current job? Or is there the next new challenge, at another organization or another company? Is there new software that you would like to learn to get, to be more up to speed with not just what's going on in your industry, but that would make you feel like you're taking on something new? Or is there a new skill set that you want to obtain that you've just been putting off and I'm not interested in that right now, or you're procrastinating or whatever it is, but you need to get on the horse and make this happen, okay? The reason why this staying in the know and kind of looking at, okay, what can I do to make, to feel more challenged in the moment to add to my repertoire, it also makes you more marketable in the, in the long run if you decide you need to leave. So one of the things that you can do is say, okay, where am I getting kind of stale or maybe stagnant in my knowledge about what I'm doing that I need to beef that up? So that's number 3, okay? Number 4 is to put yourself out there a little bit more. Go to more networking events. Be a little bit more social there. Be seen at events a little bit more. Maybe offer to present at a conference or write or publish an article. Like in some cases, this can be kind of a new challenge for people if they feel like they're working more towards becoming an expert in their industry or seen as an expert in their industry. You'll learn about new things and be invited to do more, which can then in turn add more challenge to what you're doing, okay? For those introverts out there, and I can say this because I'm more introverted actually than extroverted, sometimes putting yourself out there more seems like, ugh, a pain, I don't want to do this. And especially if your job is a more solitary one, and even if you don't want a more extroverted role, putting yourself out there can help you get involved in a new project, for example, that they're thinking about but maybe haven't even announced yet. Or you might get matched up with a new team that makes you feel less burned out and more excited and engaged. So just this kind of slight putting yourself out there a little bit more can really make a difference and give you more opportunities than you would have otherwise, okay? Number 5 is to mix it up a little bit. This one is to mix it up a little bit if you're getting bored. Raise your hand for a project that you wouldn't have otherwise done so. Start something new maybe that your company needs. Volunteer maybe outside of work, because sometimes or a lot of times I should say, how you feel personally can impact how you feel professionally. So you could work on both too. But consider volunteering your time, energy, resources, skills internally as well to say, okay, is there something that needs to change here that I could actually create more challenge by focusing on it and thinking about it, okay? And I wanted to give you all these websites here because I actually had a client. These are more for external volunteering, okay, like outside of your organization. But I had a client in Atlanta several years ago who volunteered for a project online. And it was great. So this whole idea of online volunteering is really taking off, and there are more opportunities these days to do that than there were before. Now, this is not going to be relevant for every industry, of course, but she worked on a project for 3 months. It was for a nonprofit in California to help them build out their website, and she was great with Google Analytics. That was one of the things she was helping with. But it was great for her because she made new connections through the team that she was working with. She got experience, she got a reference from the project leader and the client as well. And in this case, with this particular client I was working with, it was good for her to put on her resume because she was looking to make a career shift. So in her case, it was helpful for shifting her career direction as well. But consider this volunteering your time in some way, shape, or form to challenge yourself, but also to increase or add to your repertoire as well. And especially for those of you who decide, gosh, I need to make a change in order to feel less burned out and more energized and engaged. Volunteering is actually a great way to gain some experience, okay, that you can put on your resume. All right, so number 6 is to participate more actively. So here's the bottom line with this one is sometimes, and actually I would say often, not just sometimes, but pretty often, when people start to get burned out in their work, they start to kind of just, they're not as engaged, they don't participate as much in team meetings, they don't speak up, they don't give their ideas, they kind of, I don't want to say reclusive because that's too strong of a word, but they kind of just get, whatever, and they walk away. And one of the things that you can start to do, and we talked about this a little bit before about putting yourself out there, but that was also with, industry associations, that kind of thing. Participating more actively in your job with your team, that can help too. Like just kind of getting over that slump or that hump of like, oh, I'm not really into this. Participating more so in team meetings, preparing in advance some of your ideas. You'll be seen, you'll be called upon, hopefully, to help with other things that you may not have otherwise. And this can keep you driven and motivated to perform as well. So there are small things you can do to help you kind of get in the game, even if it's for a short time, while you assess what you need to do long term. And just kind of pushing yourself past that slump and that hump, if you will, can help a lot, because you never know. If you just raise your hand about something, it can get the ball rolling, and you may get some additional work that's actually really exciting and challenging for you. Number 7 is to communicate with your boss regularly, not just in performance reviews, so that they can kind of keep you in mind, okay? So here's the thing. I had a boss a long time ago. It was the last job I had right before I started my coaching practice, and she always said, and I think it is so true, there should be nothing in a performance review that is a surprise, and I think that's so accurate. And sometimes we forget to kind of stay in touch with and communicate with our supervisor, not just about, general everyday tasks, but how are things going? And if you're starting to feel kind of burned out, if you have the kind of relationship with them, and this is an if, because not everybody will, that you can talk to them about, hey, I'm not feeling as challenged as I'd like to, and I haven't been, in the past month or so. Is there anything we can do about it? So bring this up with them. Talk with them if possible, and if it makes sense for you. Again, this is situational. Take a look at this slide here about what can be done, or what do you need to do to stay fulfilled and effective at work, okay? Is part of it being overworked, and is there somebody who can pitch in with a specific piece of your job that, gosh, has just kind of ballooned out of control and it's overwhelming for you and it's making you burned out, and you honestly, you need some help, or else, and you're not going to necessarily say this to them, or else you're thinking about leaving, okay? And if they're not, so here's the thing with your boss and talking with them, the third piece here on the slide. If your boss is the type, let's say, who would be intimidated, who doesn't listen, and you can't talk to about this kind of stuff and will not make a change, or if they're intimidated by you being confident, if you're the confident type, and for whatever reason they might think you're going to take their job, do you need to consider moving on? Like, is that part of maybe what's wrong, that you can't have that open conversation with them in order to make the changes, okay? So consider number 7, communicate with your boss, and then if this is something that you can do, everybody, communicate with them regularly about what's going on so that you can kind of stay in the know, but get their support also with what you need to do to stay challenged, because at the end of the day, a good boss wants you to feel this way, wants you to be engaged, wants you to feel challenged and all of that. So consider that too, that they want you to be effective. And if one of the ways in order to do that is to help you feel more challenged and enthusiastic, they really should do it. It's going to be a question of whether they listen, okay? Step number 8 is to take a class. I have a ton of clients do this. They love lynda.com, Coursera. There are local classes that you can consider taking as well, a local class at a community college, or even just an adult education, 1 or 2 sessions. But whether it's online or otherwise, taking a class can be great because it kind of can infuse, a new sense of excitement about your work. You can make new connections with other people, learn something new. You could get a certification or a reference from, a project that you worked on too. So it's also something good that enhances your resume as well. But every once in a while, for me personally, it's good for me to take a class. If I take an additional coaching course, I am so enthusiastic again for months about what I do because I have this new tool. And we have a list here on this page here on the slide of different places where our clients like to take and kind of check out these free or low-cost online courses, okay? Number 9, and then we'll get to number 10 here in just a second. Number 9 is to embrace change. Be open to it, and in some cases, like, let's cause it in order to, be more challenged at your job. So if there's something that you feel like needs to be fixed or improved or, more efficient at work, and you've been kind of just like, oh, I don't, you've been avoiding it because you felt like you're burned out and in a slump, pick yourself up and say, okay, what are the things I can do about this? Because this can actually be something that might challenge me. So identify an issue at work or a challenge or an inefficiency that you can address and go talk to your boss about it. And embrace that change instead of avoiding it, because sometimes change is uncomfortable. But this can actually be a way, if you recommend it and suggest it, to get more engaged in your job and actually get in front of your boss and, hey, they might then say, okay, this is a person that I might want to promote next year. Boom, then you've got that career progression that you want, okay? And then the final tip here, or the final step, number 10, and this goes for everybody. You'll have to do number 1, number 2, and number 10, is come up with an action plan. So what are you going to do as a result of this? Do you stay at your current organization, or do you need to move to a different one or just a different role? When will you start, making these changes, and when will you start conducting a job search if needed? If you need to move on, you need to say to yourself, okay, I can stay at my current role for another X months, however long, and for either whether you make a change or no, set 3, 6, and 12-month goals. This is what we suggest to you, and regularly update them. Write down your plan, put the deadlines in your calendar, and keep track of it. And at the end of the 3 months, okay, am I feeling better? Yay or nay? And if you're not, gosh, do I need to make a more dramatic change? Or 3 months, yay, this is better. I have to keep this in mind and remember what I did to stay engaged, okay? Ask a friend to hold you accountable to this. I just want you to keep in mind, too, that accountability is a critical piece to this process. I had a plan for quitting my job at the time that I had a part-time job that was paying my bills while I was growing my coaching practice on the side. And I was working 2 jobs at a university in marketing and having my coaching practice. And at my 2-year mark, I had someone in place to remind me and say, okay, it's been about 2 years. It's time to go and do your coaching practice. Accountability can make a huge difference with your action plan. And these are kind of the basics that we want you to have in place for your plan. So like I said at the beginning, do steps number 1 and 2, but then identify 3 other steps that you will take in order to make a difference and get less burned out. We do have, in partnership with Vanderbilt, so Drew and I are hosting this together. I am holding the program and coaching it. It's a 4-session webinar program. If you feel like you really need to figure out your career direction once and for all, or want to figure out how to make your current job more fulfilling and when you should stay or go, whether you should stay or go, this is a great program for you guys. You can participate on your lunch hour. It starts next week, September 20th. Okay, the calls are recorded, and the program includes our very comprehensive Identify Your Ideal Career workbook plus individual coaching with me. It is a fantastic program. We get rave reviews from it. I highly recommend you checking it out. These are some of the referrals or the quotes we've gotten from previous participants. If you want to ask me any questions about this program or talk to me about it, I'm happy to do so. Just email me at admin@halliecrawford.com for information, or to register, I'll get you all the information that you need. This is a really great program, and it is just for Vanderbilt alumni, okay? All right. So we're going to start to close out here and get close to the Q&A portion. So start to think about and go ahead and post your questions. And I want everyone to get your pen out again and write down 2 action steps that you will take in the next week. And I've given you some examples here on the slide. Write down 2 things, everybody, whether it's reviewing the career model that I shared with you earlier. If you have a really good relationship with your boss and you can talk to them, that can be on the list. Is it, I'm just going to throw myself in and participate more actively for the moment and maybe take a class and see how that goes? Write down 2 action steps right now for me, everybody. Okay. While you're writing those down and thinking of questions, we have one other thing as a freebie for you guys, if anybody would like it. If you'd like a free copy of one of our other webinars, 3 Keys to Unlock Your Strategic Career Plan, just send me an email, admin@halliecrawford.com. I'm happy to send you a link to download that. It is really helpful after you've made your assessment to say, okay, what do I need to do, and how do you create that plan to make those changes? It will help you enormously with that, okay? So just send me an email if you'd like a copy of that. All right, so Drew, we're getting close to the Q&A here. I wanted to just close out, my presentation part, everybody, with, I know that some of these steps may seem a little bit scary or intimidating, and I want you all to remember the greatest risk in life is not taking one. You cannot stay in this career burnout place. You need to take action so it's not even a whole nother year or a few months and you look back and say, oh, I'm still in the same spot or same position. I need to move on. So remember, everybody, without risk, there's no reward. Okay. All right, so Drew, we're good with the Q&A here.
Great. Well, Hallie, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. I think everyone got something out of that. It would be hard not to. Well, the first question that came in was just asking a little bit more about the Commodore Career Intensive. The person asked, are there topics for each of the 4 sessions of the series? And do you have the dates for that? I know it's like 2 weeks in a row, and then I think a break, and then the following 2 weeks. But if you could just elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to look up the dates now on my phone so I don't mess up my computer screen. Yes, there are topics for each one of them. The program is built around the career model and uses the exercises in our Ideal Career Workbook to provide the topics. So it's directed, and there's also time on each call, though, for everyone to participate and ask questions, and I call on people. So it is interactive as well as having very specific topics for each one. And again, it's built around the career model. Everyone gets the workbook and they do homework. Each participant does a certain, piece of the workbook for homework in between each of the calls. So it's really guided like that. The sessions are September 20th, September 27th. I'm just double checking here, everybody, and then feel free to add more questions in the box if needed. And then the next one is October 11th, and then October 18th. Yeah, so those are the times. Yep. So 20.
And I'll just reiterate that I've heard wonderful feedback from alumni who have participated. So I really encourage, if you're looking for a more structured approach to changing careers, that you should really consider it. What other questions do people have? Does anyone have any kind of situational questions specific to your own situation?
Yeah. And keep in mind, everybody, remember, not all of the steps make sense for you. Like taking a class, you're like, gosh, I take classes all the time already, and I don't need to learn something new. I'm already on the ball. It's more that, I'd like to go participate at conferences more to kind of make use of those skills. Remember, they're not all relevant for every person.
Okay, we'll give it just another minute here and see if anything comes in. Oh, here we go. What age or years of experience do you typically coach for burnout? I'm 41 years old with 9 years of experience in my current industry and looking for a change.
Oh gosh, great question. Honestly, it's all ages. Like I will have, we'll have clients that come to us and they're only, let's say, like 26. And they've been in a really intense field, like in consulting, let's say right out of school, and they're already burned out. They're like, I can't take the travel anymore, it's kind of up or out, and they just can't deal with it. All the way to people who are in their 50s. So 40, like I would say though, the typical kind of burnout time is kind of mid-30s to mid-40s normally for people. But just know that, gosh, you're not alone if it's happening to you a lot sooner or even later. But normally kind of that's the sweet spot for burnout. And By the way, too, it's an okay time to make a change. You know, I've got plenty of clients that will say, gosh, I feel too old. I've been in this industry for too long and I'm too old to make a change. They're going to look at me funny. That's not the case. You do need to be practical about it and realize that, yes, certain roles or industries may not be a fit, but do not let that hold you back, because the economy has changed. People are working a lot longer, and that is much less of an issue these days.
Do you have any book or blog recommendations concerning burnout?
Ooh, that's a good question. Honestly, I do not. If I think of any, Drew, I will send
Okay,
them
perfect.
to
Yep.
you.
And I
Yeah.
can send those out to everyone.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for freelancers or job hunters who are burned out?
Freelance or job hunters that are burned out?
Yes.
Sure. So I would say, so people, for example, using freelance, latching onto that for a second, you need to think about what is it that's, you know, kind of driving you nuts about the freelance world. Like, is it the financial, or let's say lack of financial stability? Understanding if it's the environment, you know, working solo, whatever is going on for you. And you need to think, I think in those cases, a lot of times about the environment and maybe even the compensation. If your compensation is great, okay, that's fantastic. But with freelance, I mean, that's a very specific kind of animal, right? You need to really consider the environment and your personality type as well. I have a lot of clients that have those, you know, that type of situation, or where they're working at home alone. And one of the really big things for them is just that they're not around other people enough, and it's driving them batty. Okay, so those specific pieces of the model are things that I would look at first.
Great. So talking about compensation, someone asked, what about financial repercussions? My current burned out career is relatively high paying, and a switch could potentially mean a dramatic and unacceptable pay cut.
Great question. Clients say that to me all the time. So I always want people to balance being like, okay, what is going to be fulfilling and rewarding to me with being realistic too. So to that person, I would say, realize, okay, if I make a change, there could be a pay cut. But what I always tell people too is, like, you need to look one way or another. So put the money aside for a little while and at least look at what else is out there, because you owe it to yourself to do that. Because what if there is something that actually would be great that's related to, you know, what you're doing now? There's so many jobs out there that we just don't even know exist. So you owe it to yourself to at least investigate it. And realize, though, in the back of your mind, yeah, I don't want to take too much of a pay cut. Identify how much of a pay cut you'd be willing to make, but at least do your due diligence, because at the end of it, you might come back and say, you know what, there are changes I can make at my current job. I'll still make the money I want to make. Or you might, and you stay put, or you might identify a career path that you didn't even know existed that pays as much as or close to what you're doing now, but you just didn't even realize it was out there because you didn't give yourself, you know, the time to think about it. So you at least need to think about it. You don't want to have any regrets or kind of what ifs. Does that answer, Drew, do you think?
Yeah, I think that's great. And here's another really good one. My company is in a constant state of change. Many of us have change fatigue, but there is hope perpetually on the horizon that the next change will be better for the company and for the individual. So how do you manage the hope and the fatigue?
Oh my gosh, great question. So I would ask you, like, how many changes has it been? If it's been 5 changes, for example, you know, more than 3, and you're still holding out hope, I would be concerned, and I would consider at least looking out there and seeing what the other possibilities are. In addition to that, I would give yourself a time frame and say, and a goal, and say, okay, I'm willing, for example, to go through one more change and that's it, because it's been enough. I don't want to waste any more of my time. I'll go through this one next change, and in the meantime, I am going to start looking at what else is out there, just in case. Because again, like the other answer, there may be some other organization that has already done all that change and, you know, could be a great fit for you. And because you're holding out hope for where you are, then you haven't even, you know, given it that consideration. So give yourself a time frame, but if it's been a lot of change already, I would consider that it may be time to make a move and at least do a little bit of due diligence. Look at what's out there. And even if you went on a few interviews to learn more about what's out there, that's okay too. You can always say no, but it's information gathering.
Great. And here's one last one that came in that I think you could probably give some personal advice. I've been in consulting for the past 5 years and would like to move into the coaching HR area, but I'm not sure how to do that. Do you have any recommendations?
I would first talk to some coaches about what they do and what they like and don't like about it. So it may be that coaching is the right thing. Okay, great if it is. But one of the things I did first before I made the move, when I thought that this is what I wanted to do, is I did informational interviews with several coaches to learn more about what are some of the first steps I would take. And by the way, one of the first steps I would suggest is to take some coaching classes so that you understand what it's all about. But I would do some informational interviews with coaches to find out what it's really like so that you're going into it with your eyes wide open.
Great. And then this is the last one, and it's asking about the Ideal Career Program again. Will the Identify Your Ideal Career Program include individual coaching or be in a dialogue format, or will it be a muted webinar such as the program today?
It is not a muted webinar. Everyone is online and can actively participate and talk because the groups are always smaller. They're not huge. It does include a session with me, yes. So there is dialogue, it's interactive, and it does include a coaching session with me, which is really critical to the process because that's where we figure out people's career path in that one-on-one session with me where we bring it all together.
Great. Well, Hallie, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today and giving us so many wonderful tips for dealing with burnout. I just wanted to encourage everyone again to check out all of our career resources and events, both online and in person. And later this week, I will definitely send that follow-up email with a link that will give you some more information and registration for the Ideal Career Program. And I'll also request your feedback about today's webinar, and I'll also include the recording of today's presentation as well as the PDF of the presentation. And so best of luck as you hopefully solve your career burnout, and thank you again for joining us. Have a great afternoon, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.